It's new bullet journal time. Let's go ahead and set up for 2023. Hey y'all, welcome back to Dots and Beyond. My name is Beth, and this is day 2 of Planmas, my 25 days of planning videos. This gorgeous A5 dot grid journal from Archer and Olive with this phonograph symbol is going to be my personal bullet journal for 2023. And I took my cue from this symbol, and we are going to set up with a music and lyrics theme. The monthly themes are going to be even more specific than that. I'm super excited about it, but let's go ahead and get started with this setup. As you can see, I've created some printables. These are just little records. It's all the same icon. I just cut out in different sizes. I also have some faux or mock rock band tickets that I purchased off of Etsy. The name of that shop is Lime Jello Salad of all things, and it was a 40 piece. It has a whole lot of different tickets in it. Some of them are duplicates. I just pulled out the ones that fit within the color story that I'm using for this setup, and I have them in little piles here off to the side. And my color palette for this 2023 setup was completely inspired by the color of this journal, and so I have gone through my markers and pens trying to select the ones that are going to work best for me. Starting with this Crayola Super Tip, I chose to go with browns for my markers and my stamps, and then black for the line work with just a regular Pigma Micron, trying to keep the color palette as simple as possible. I also have a white Uniball Signo for when I need to write in white or do some corrections. And then I am using a Crayola Colors of the World for very light highlighting, and this is the Crayola Light Almond. Some supplies I do intend to mix in order to get the color I want, and that is the case with these Shuttle Art dual tip dot markers. I have one in brown and one in red, and plan to combine them to get the color of the dot that I'm looking for. Next up is an Archer and Olive acrylograph, and when I found the right one, I stuck a piece of washi tape on the end of it because I have given up trying to keep track of which pack my acrylographs came out of. This is the Ohuhu number 46 dual tip brush pen, and I really just needed it for this finer tip in order to have a smaller writing implement in the brown color. And then I have Candy Apple and Espresso Distress Ink stamp pads, as I will be mixing the two of those in order to get the color that I want on the page as well. We are going to stick these off to the side, crack open this journal, and get to planning. Now, if you've been around for a little bit and watched some of my setups, y'all know that I do like to name my journals. I also like to mess around with this nameplate that is in the front section of the journal. I really never leave it alone. I am going to do the same thing this year, only I have designed a printable and vellum printable that I am going to stick in here, and it's also going to reveal the name of this journal. And since I am going with a music and lyrics theme, I have named my journal after a musical artist. The first element of this insert is a printable that I designed on Canva. I did choose fonts that I thought were going to complement what I am using throughout the setup. I have a sort of typewriter font, and then a long linear font, and then one that actually matches my handwriting fairly closely. This is a Linkin Park song, and it was designed and cut to match this vellum piece that I printed with the lead singer Chester Bennington on it, and the name of this journal is going to be Chester. This is the singular most complicated piece of this journal, so we're going to make sure that I can get it put together correctly without making any mistakes. If you look closely on this vellum piece, there's a little shadowy area that I created to overlap, and I have scored the back of this sticker sheet with the approximate width of that using this very precise X-Acto knife to score that with a ruler. So I'm going to start with trying to attach the two pieces together, the sticker sheet and the vellum, and then we'll work on peeling off the rest of the sticker sheet and trying to get this into the exact right spot here on the journal. I will then add some black washi tape on the left side to balance out that black washi tape that I have framing the vellum on the right. Let me tell you a little bit about why I chose this quote. Y'all know that mental health is very important to me. I'm very much an advocate for mental health as someone who lives with bipolar disorder. This song is called One More Light. It's from the album of the same name that came out just months before Chester Bennington took his own life on July 20th, 2017. These lyrics read, "Who cares if one more light goes out in the sky of a million stars? It flickers, flickers. Who cares if someone's time runs out? If a moment is all we are, quicker, quicker. Who cares if one more light goes out? Well, I do." And on that note, we are in. I am just straightening things out a little bit. It didn't end up perfect. I did have to trim just a little bit off of the top and re-round the corner there on my black washi tape before getting ready to put in this washi tape on the other side to balance it out. And see, that is going to stick on this page right here as well, and I did design it to overlap that seam just by a little bit. I am going to put a sticker and my name behind this vellum flap, but let's go ahead and get this washi tape on. To do that, I am going to flip the journal around, and I had to do it twice to figure out what angle I want it at. Y'all, I don't try to keep the journal in the same place for the sake of the video. I know y'all know that, but it's just pretty prevalent in this video the number of times that I twist this journal around. The first of these record stickers is going to cover up this Archer and Olive nameplate, and y'all, I almost forgot to tell you about the artist for this Chester Bennington art. I actually can't pronounce their name, but their channel on ArtStation is Kamiyama, so I will link to that in the description box below if you want to go check out their art and see if there's anything that you would like to purchase. And now it's name time, and I'm not usually nervous to put my name in my journal, but I should have used just a regular ballpoint pen because I really messed up my own name using this acrylograph, but it is what it is. I have left room below my name where I will put my phone number and my email address. One of the reasons I have gone back to an A5 journal is so that it can be more portable and go with me where I go, so that I will definitely use it more. Now I have gone ahead and taped together or glued together these two pages that don't necessarily lay flat, and we are going to move on to my header page. I don't have any more crazy vellum concoctions for you. The rest of this setup really is very simple with these stickers that I've made. I'm starting off with the little vinyl records in each corner. There will be a lot of line work, and then of course the stamps and the rock ticket stickers that I've purchased, and those are all of the things that we're going to use moving forward. So we're going to go ahead and get this stamping in here. I'm going to do the 2023, and if y'all begin to notice, I smudge stamp ink everywhere because I keep leaving them over to the right next to my journal, and you would think that I would learn by the end of this page, but I don't. It messes up later on as well. Here I'm just going to fade in the line work. I have framed that out, and then I have 6 boxes. There is one for each month of this journal, so January through June, and that's for me to come back and put a little picture of what my theme for that month is going to be. I've never done this before, but I'm so excited about the themes that I'm going to be doing that I wanted to include that in this journal. And just to give those boxes a little more depth, I am going to give them a drop shadow with this light almond colors of the world. Very quickly, it's light, it doesn't necessarily pick up on camera as well. I do go over it a couple of times to darken it just a little, cleaning up some of my ink splotches, and that will wrap up this page. It is very simplified from years past, and that is what I'm going for. I have hinted to that in many a video leading up to these 2023 setups. Now I am moving on to my grid guide, my key, and my word of the year page, and I've pretty much found a formula that works for me. So we're just going to go ahead and get this put in here. It's going to look very similar to my last 2 journal setups on how this spread is structured. First up is the key, and I do like to frame the key on the left side by a half piece of artwork of some kind. For my 2022 setup, that was half of a tiger's face. For this one, we're going to use half of one of these records, which I don't have to draw, so it goes a whole lot quicker. Now, I do stick fairly closely to the key system from the original bullet journal method. I do have some signifiers that are a little bit different. I have also changed a couple of things. I used to have a dash for a note and a plus sign for a journal, and I've just gotten rid of the note one and just kept the plus sign for the journal. And I have also added a circle back arrow for review, a little magnifying glass for research, and a little apple for food log. And yes, when I change my key, I change it across all of my journals, so my work journal has the very same key with the elimination of food log. I don't keep a food log in my work journal. And then on this bottom left corner, I am going to put my grid guide. Now I keep a very simplified grid guide in my journal. I only track the full width, the half, the third, and the quarters. That is both vertically as well as horizontally, and that is all I need to keep me straight. And now we're going to stamp out my word of the year. My word of the year for 2022 was rise, and I do feel like I have risen even though it was a very tough year. So my word for 2023 is going to be flourish. Synonyms for flourish are thrive, embellish, or crescendo, and I also liked the way that it fit into my music theme. For this setup, I did try to keep most of my quotes to song lyrics, but in this particular instance, I made an exception. And the quote that I have chosen to put on this page is from a South African poet by the name of Gift Gugumona, and it reads as follows: "Dear Superwoman, seasons are there for a reason. You may not flourish now, but when it is your season, your cup will overflow." The last step on this page is to frame out the right side with some of these rock tickets, and like I said, I had already picked out some that had the same colors we were already working with. These 3 tickets are one for the Beatles, one for Guns N' Roses, and one for Queen. And once I have those on the page, I am just trimming them out with this little thin black washi tape just to make the edges perfectly even. And that wraps up this spread, and we are ready to move on to my future log. There are 3 main things to know about my future log. First is that I do not do a year at a glance as well as a future log, year at a glance being a calendar all on one page. I just find it redundant to have both. The second thing to remember is that I am always going to set up my future log pretty much in this style, where there are 3 columns per page, 6 per spread, and then 2 spreads for the future log. And the third thing to remember is that I actually do enjoy writing out all of the little letters and numbers for this calendar. It's just one of those things that I like doing in every journal setup. If you're new to bullet journaling and you're wondering what a future log is, this is where you come to write down appointments, holidays, doctor's visits, those sorts of things when you don't have a monthly setup in your journal yet. In keeping with my music and lyrics theme, I do have some song lyrics to frame out the top of this record, and that song is Get Up, Stand Up by Bob Marley and the Wailers. Lyrics reading, "Preacher man, don't tell me heaven is under the earth. I know you don't know what life is really worth. He said all that glitters is gold, half that story ain't never been told. So now you see the light, hey, you stand up for your right." As I finished those lyrics, I did do a couple of things differently on my future log. Down at the bottom, you'll see 2 little lines under each month. One of those is for YouTube statistics, the other is for Instagram. I also have a dividing line in the white space under each month, and my purpose there is to put birthdays and holidays above that dividing line, and then doctor's appointments, meetings, and that sort of thing below that line. And then I made a last minute decision to highlight the days of the week with that Crayola Colors of the World marker. And then because I felt like the YouTube and Instagram logos were a little lost on the bottom of the page and I needed something darker to anchor the bottom page, I also decided to color those in. That will be the finishing touch on this first half of the year for January to June, but of course we've got to put in July through December as well. One thing you will notice on my pencil sketch for my months is that I don't write in every single date. I do write in the 1st, the 8th, the 15th, the 22nd, and the 29th of each month down, and that's how I keep track of where I am in the year and putting in all of those little dates. And while I enjoy writing in all of those little numbers, you probably don't enjoy watching it as much, so we are going to go ahead and pop in the rest of this page design and move on to our lyrics at the top. Now the lyrics I chose for this particular page are from George Michael, and it's Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me, and they read, "I can't light no more of your darkness. All my pictures seem to fade to black and white. I'm growing tired and time stands still before me, frozen here on the ladder of my life." The final touch then is to stick in some of these music note doodles that I am using to tie in some of the spreads, and that will wrap up my future log for 2023. One of the other things you'll notice about this is I don't typically put a header on my future log anymore. It's just a page that I know what it is, and I don't feel like it needs a header because it speaks for itself. My next spread in this 2023 setup is going to be a little bit of a reflection page. I'm going to have a spot where I can do some 2022 reflections and a spot where I can do some 2023 guidance questions. This is going to be different than my goal setting. I am actually changing my goal setting into a digital format and moving that into Notion this year, so stay tuned for a Notion and goal setting tour later this month. For this spread, I do need some very straight headers, and I've learned that I am terrible at drawing straight lines with the Crayolas. I can do it with a Tombow or a brush pen a little bit easier. So I am recruiting the help of some washi tape to mask off those areas so that I can get cleaner, crisper lines. On the left side, I decided I wanted this darker color from the Crayola, and on the right side, I'm going to use a lighter color just to separate the two. I also chose to draw a thin line of each one of those colors across the bottom of the page just as a small anchor. Now, when I was testing my supplies, I did not have any issues with the white Uniball gel pen on that darker Crayola brown color, but when it came time to setting up this video, I began to struggle with it. I did have to switch from that to a white acrylograph, and then I ended up switching from the white acrylograph to the white Archer and Olive gel pen to make things stand out a little bit better. But those prompts for 2022 are: I found unexpected joy in, I was most courageous by, I found purpose in, and I showed growth in. And the prompts for 2023 are: I want to repeat, I want to lose, I want to gain, I want to enjoy, I can succeed by, I need more, I want to visit, and I want to savor. That is it for my reflection pages, which is the complete opposite of my 2022 mid-year setup, which I set up as a wellness workbook. I definitely didn't keep up with all of the pages in that workbook, but it did keep me going in the right direction, and that was the purpose. But again, for 23, we are simplifying things. This is another one of the pages getting the sticker decorations, and for these we have AC/DC, Pink Floyd, Kiss, and The Who. We are going to need a thinner strip of washi tape to frame out the right side of those tickets, so I am going to cut some washi tape in half because this is just a little too thick for what I need to use. And to do that, I just stick the washi tape on a cutting mat, lining it up in a straight line with the grid guide that's already on that mat, and then cutting it with any sort of X-Acto knife. Right now, my favorite again is this pen style one that keeps things very neat and clean. Using the blade to pull that up just a little, and then I can put this in the journal and have that thinner strip. All I need to do then is just trim off the ends with a pair of scissors. If you're considering some reflection for 2022 and 2023, but these prompts don't work for you, I suggest just Googling end of year prompts or end of year reflection, and you're going to find hundreds of questions and prompts to choose from. Now, I have had a 50 before 50 list in my journal. I have moved that elsewhere simply because I'm tired of copying it, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to put in some kind of a to-do list. And for this one, I am jumping on Jess's bandwagon from Joshi Corinne, and I am going to do 102 to do. I also considered 103 in 23, but I will link to Jess's video where she discusses in depth this list of things to do in the year. Doesn't necessarily have to be big goals, it can be something small, and we're going to fill this list out at another time. Frankly, because I have no idea what 102 things are going to end up making this list. Now for this, I am going to cut a Dutch door into this right page. I'm just trimming off enough space for us to frame the page underneath it with some of those rock concert tickets, trimming off the corner edges, and then my list will be here on the left, the right, and then the back side of that Dutch door page. Scattered throughout, I do have some music iconography other than the records. On that front cover page, I used a boombox. Here I have sketched out an iPod. But if we're going to write down 102 things, we're going to need to write down 102 numbers. Once that's done, I'm doodling in some of the music notes just to carry from one page to the next and make those two tie in more seamlessly. And because we like visual cues here at Dots and Beyond, I am going to highlight every other line with that light almond Crayola. I did consider at this point whether I wanted to mask off every other line to make sure that those ended up perfectly straight, and I decided I didn't have time for that anymore and just went for it, and I don't think I messed them up too terribly. What I am changing is my plan to mix this red and copper dot markers. This was my original plan here, was to use the red and the copper together to make this darker color. We have enough of these color elements in our tickets, our rock tickets, that I've decided I'm not going to take the time to combine those, but I'm going to do them on every other line. So every other line will be red and every other line will be copper. I'll use these dots to fill in when I have completed a particular item. It's important to remember that even when we start off with a pretty definitive plan, sometimes another idea comes along that's better or easier, and there's no right or wrong way to set up your journal. You just do what works for you in the moment and what you feel is right. And here is our last set of tickets for this setup, and this is another Queen ticket, the Eagles, Led Zeppelin, and My Bloody Valentine. In between filming this video and doing the voiceover, I actually found another use for all of the leftover tickets that I have, because I still have a lot of leftover tickets. They are in my journal, so I'll try to remember in the January setup to show that to you so that you guys can see how I use those instead of just hanging on to them for some unknown purpose in the future. And of course I am trimming out those tickets to straighten that edge with that black washi tape. I think this washi tape came in the Halloween 2022 box from Archer and Olive. I'm not exactly sure where I got it. Now I am going to put one more music lyric on this right page, and I did change my plan on some of those elements, so I'm erasing those here and using this record instead to frame the top of that quote. And just in case you thought I was going to use lyrics from only artists who have passed away, this one is very much still alive. This is from the song Home by Mark Broussard, which is one of my top 5 songs of all time, and it reads, "Hot damn, you should have felt the groove like I was swimming in a sea of soul." And then to balance out that iPod on the left, I thought I would go super old school and sketched in a radio microphone. And that will wrap up my 102 to do. Thanks again to Jess for such a great idea. And that leaves us with just one more page to set up, and this one is very much for me. If you haven't figured out, I am a fan of writing down lyrics and quotes. Sometimes a lyric hits me the very first time I hear a song, and sometimes I've listened to a song hundreds or thousands of times and suddenly a particular lyric stands out. I'm constantly jotting down lyrics on the Notes app on my phone, but I thought it would be fun for me to create a lyrics page here in my journal where I can just jot down lyrics that I find meaningful. And y'all, that is it. That is all I have set up for my annual pages for 2023. So again, allow me to introduce you to Chester. I'm really glad that this vellum sticker sheet in the cover worked out for me. I really wasn't sure how it was going to turn out, but I do love the way that it looks. My January setup is coming a week from today, so go ahead and subscribe and you'll know when that video drops so that you can see how I am structuring out my monthly themes. If you've made it this far, leave 2 things in the comments for me. 1, any kind of music themed emoji will do, and 2, leave me a lyric from one of your all-time favorite songs. Any song will do in any language. We like music here at Dots and Beyond. Tomorrow on day 3 of Planmas will be the setup in my work journal, which is even more stripped back and minimal than this one. I know your time is valuable and I very much appreciate you spending some of that time with me today. One last thing before you go, if you would take the time to give this video a big thumbs up, I would greatly appreciate it. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you in the next one.